Hi everyone. I know it's been quite a while. It's been a good while since I last dusted off this channel, but I figured, you know what? I'm watching good TV right now. I'm watching a good TV show right now. And I thought, why not dust off the chan? Anyway, The White Lotus. Just watched episode 2 last night. I think, the way that I'm gonna go through this will be mostly by character, per storyline. But first I'd like to talk a little bit about one thing that really caught my eye in episode 1 in particular was the pacing. Some scenes were just so slow. Just so slow. Not to say that they were bad. They were just long. I guess slow isn't the right word. Long is the right word. The scenes were long. I felt like it really, really wanted us to feel uncomfortable. And I did. I felt uncomfortable for a lot of the first episode. Second episode comes along. If I'm not mistaken, the very first scene, the two gals, hotel room, Paula and Olivia, just hanging out, having some good old girl time, figure out that they brought a lot of drugs, and they just start doing ASMR to each other, and that felt long, and that felt weird, and their storyline is one of the storylines I feel like I don't have it quite figured out what they're trying to do quite yet, but we'll get to that in a second. Having said that about the slow start, I would say this episode really, really picked up speed. It did not have the same, and I don't want to call it a problem, because in episode 1 I felt like there was a purpose, it had a purpose. Now the fact that it didn't really necessarily happen in episode 2, actually, you know what, it did kind of happen in episode 2 a little bit, but it felt better. It felt better, maybe it was because I knew the characters more, but what I'm trying to get at is that the scenes didn't feel as long. And they were long. For instance, Rachel talking with Nicole at the pool, that scene was long, but it was very well written, and everything felt very earned. It felt like it was following a logical progression, and the twist was awesome. We'll get to that later as well. Starting off with the storylines. Kind of what kicked off the episode, the dad. The dad doesn't have cancer, you guys. And he's happy about that. And I thought that was a funny little storyline. That whole, I don't have cancer, now I'm just gonna be the best dad ever. That was funny. He arced, I'll say that much, in this episode. Next I want to talk about the storyline that felt like kind of the either B storyline or the 1B story, the 2 storyline, or the B, or the, I'll call it the A2 storyline, which was that Rachel wants to take this job, but hubby isn't feeling it. Hubby's not quite feeling Rachel working on her honeymoon with him. Now, obviously, we can all agree that hubby Shane is kind of an asshole. Hate him. Bad guy. Easily the least likable character. Obviously, the show is leading us to believe that they're no longer together at the end of the series, or the end of the season, you could say. She should not be in this relationship with him. They've known each other for a few months. I think she said, we met last September. And the girls at the pool, Olivia and Paula, were like, that's not a very long time. So obviously they haven't been together for very long, and it seems like Rachel is growing to hate her newfound hubby for good reason. This guy's an asshole. You can see where he's coming from in terms of like, well, I wish you weren't working on our honeymoon, but he comes at it from a standpoint of like, well, you don't have to work anymore. Why would you work? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do that stupid, silly job that you've been working for such a long time. You don't have to do that anymore because it's stupid and it's silly, and you're only doing it because you want to. He's bad, and he's a bad guy, and the storyline is, oh, should I take this job? And the answer is, it's a hazy one. It's certainly a hazy one. It was an intriguing storyline for sure. But I do like kind of how the show is setting up Rachel kind of in the major protagonist role, I would say. The main protagonist, it's like her, and we want to see her move away from this kind of toxic and shitty husband that she has. But I really loved the little twist where her and Nicole are talking by the pool. It's like a girl power moment, and all of a sudden we learn that she's a bad journalist. She's a bad journalist. She wrote a bad piece. Obviously that's coming from a biased standpoint of Nicole, but Nicole is a professional woman, professional businesswoman. She's been in the game for quite a while, and I'll take her word for it that Rachel is a bad journalist. Now, Is Rachel in the... This is weird that I don't know why I'm talking about this in such depth, but is Rachel in the right position to be a good journalist? I couldn't tell you. It sounds like she's working at a BuzzFeed of sort. Bad journalist, good journalist, who knows? All that we know is that this protagonist that we've been seeing is kind of flawed. And this marriage is already being chipped away at. And the mother will come eventually. We saw that in the trailer. And I think that'll be the last straw. So another good story. I liked that storyline. I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I do want to say, speaking of Nicole, that Connie Britton is playing the most convincing mother role I've ever seen. So great job, Con, if I can call you that. One more thing about Rachel and Shane is that they're just really, really bad at communicating. They shouldn't have gotten married, and that's clear. If you've only known someone since last September, don't get married. And I think that's been made clear by their marriage so far. They just don't know what they're doing. They haven't talked about anything. They haven't talked about student loans or anything like that. I could go on forever about them. But I will say, we got a little bit of Tanya in this episode. Tanya and Belinda. I want to speak on that a little bit, and just that, that she is very funny. Tanya is a very funny character, very uncomfortable, very odd, very peculiar. The scene of her talking to Olivia and Paula while they were tripping was nice. That was fun to watch. The whole aspect of she's being creepy towards Belinda, sure, she is. But Belinda's kind of starting to get into it. You kind of get the sense that Belinda hasn't felt this attention from any of her clients before. And the fact that Tanya is so willing to heap praise upon Belinda and all that Belinda is doing. Belinda, it looks like she's about to take advantage of that monetarily. So we'll see where that goes. I'm excited to see where everything goes. Armand, manager, tired of it all. Great little interplay between him and Shane. Shane being like, I want the pineapple sweet, and Armand being like, well, you can't have it. And Shane being like, why don't I want to take that for an answer? I like that whole thing. The champagne, stuffing the champagne in there. This was cool. And then Armand taking the pills that the girls left on the beach. Earned. You're like, is he going to call the police? Is he going to take the pill? Because we have seen the police in the trailer. We know the police are going to show up. I don't know when they do. I thought that would have been an opportunity. Everyone's got a little dirt underneath their fingernails, and I'm liking where the show is going for all these characters. Speaking of the drugs that Paula and Olivia brought, that's obscene. That they brought so much to Hawaii on a plane when Hawaii has really strict customs. I think you can't take an apple. I doubt you can take ketamine. Also, just doing ketamine on the beach, funny. That was a funny scene. Now they're trying to find the drugs, and that kind of leads me into, I don't understand what these teenage girls are getting themselves into. I don't understand why Paula won't tell Olivia about this guy. It seems like they're close. Seems like, they have this kind of unspoken communication of that's funny that this person is acting this way. For some reason, they're not on the same page about this dude. Odd to me. Why? Why is that? Oh, Lonnie. I missed Lonnie. Makes sense that she wasn't there. But missed her. She got a baby. I wonder if she'll come back. Who knows? I bet we'll see her again. She wasn't just premiere fodder. And then I think the only character I haven't really talked about is Quinn. He's just doing his own thing. I don't know when he's really gonna factor into the story. I think once him and his dad start taking these scuba lessons, he'll factor in a little bit more. But last thing, funniest part of the episode was Father Mark, learning about his father, and that his father actually died of AIDS and not of cancer. That was a funny scene. Content-wise, not super funny, but the performances were amazing from Connie. Connie's MVP performance so far in the show. IMO. Great episode. Excellent episode. 4 out of 5. That's my rating system. Out of 5. For it to be a 5, it's got to be I have to be blown away, or I have to cry or something like that. This was a 4 out of 5. Good job, White Lotus. Excited for next week.